Hello everyone, welcome to our 5-week first draft lesson number 12. Today we're going to talk about themes and symbols. Our goals are many. With themes and symbols, they help deliver on that story promise that you made at the beginning of the novel. Readers are hooked with your exciting openings, but fans are made in your endings. So we want to make sure that your ending is strong and resonates on a deeper level with your readers. Your theme will help with round 2 of edits as well. First, we need to talk a little bit about the difference between topics and themes. These two terms are mixed up quite a bit, even with English teachers that I work with at school. They kind of mix those two up. So topics are general ideas or general concepts. Sometimes they're called thematic topics. We have things like justice, love, truth, fear. Those are all topics. Themes are generally universal truths, things that apply to all people, like love will conquer all, or hard work pays off. The first thing that I want you to do today is we're going to be creating a web, and there are a lot of different ways to go about creating a web. Basically, you want a central bubble, if you will, of your novel, and then you're going to have subtopics with your scenes, your major scenes, action scenes, or things that happen to your characters along the way, and then topics that are related to that. So for instance, I have our book title here, and then I've broken up the story just so you can kind of see it. We have scene 1, there was a car accident, scene 2, in the hospital, scene 3, new job, scene 4, lost job. These are just examples. So in scene 1, we have topics in that story or in that particular scene dealing with fear, confusion. Scene 2, she loses her husband, or boyfriend. There's despair. We have lost love. And then in scene 3, we have hope, new love, despair, lost love, kind of goes back and forth. So don't worry if some of these topics repeat. That's actually a really good sign that you have a strong thematic presence already in your novel. Once you've created your web, then we can start working on a theme for your story. So you're going to go back and take a look at your web. What are some of those repeating topics? Narrow down topics into a short list of about 3 or 5 main ideas or concepts that keep repeating in your story or that resonate with you when thinking about your story. And we're going to create a universal truth about those words. So some examples. In our mock-up story, we have things like love, despair, tragedy, rebirth, and hope. So we change this into a statement like hope and love can pull anyone out of the grips of tragedy and despair. Don't worry so much if your theme doesn't seem quite right or you're not sure if that's really what's going to carry it all the way through. This is, of course, our first draft, our rough draft, and working title, working theme. It may change or evolve as your story does. Now you have your theme, hope and love can pull anyone out of the grips of tragedy and despair. What do you do with it? Okay, so this line, this universal truth, is going to be the force that moves us into the dark moment, climax, and resolution of your story. So when you begin each scene, especially the climax and resolution, I want you to take a look at that theme. Make sure that it's resonating with your characters. We don't want to preach to our audience, but we want to make sure that that theme is being felt by our characters through their actions and their dialogue. Do the characters feel the universal truth? Can you make it more powerful to the reader? So we really want to make sure that the reader feels that tragedy and despair and how love and hope has conquered and pulled that character out of those dark moments. One way to intensify our theme is to include a symbol or extended metaphor. Now, I know this sounds maybe a little bit scary, but you don't have to be a literary genius to include symbolism. Novelists do it all the time. We saw it Titanic with the necklace, Jurassic Park uses the raptor claw, Gone in 60 Seconds, the whole second half of the novel centers around his both fear and love of Eleanor, the 67 Mustang Shelby that he has to steal, and it's the last car that he has to take on. And so that particular car ends up driving the whole second half of the story. And of course, in the Hunger Games, we see the symbol of the Mockingjay pin, as a symbol of the rebellion and of hope in the story. So let's try and come up with a symbol or an extended metaphor for your character. I want you to pick one of your character's flaws or fears and pick an object that appears frequently in your story. So we want to make that object manifest the character's flaws or fears. So for an example, let's take a white bedroom. So if we were writing maybe a romance novel or contemporary literary fiction, we might have a main character, we'll call her Annie. And she's very controlling sort of nature. She always has to have things neat and orderly, and we see this in her bedroom. So whenever she walks into her bedroom, the bed is made. We see her maybe making the bed. Everything is all perfect. The pillows are all fluffed. It's very white, very pristine, very sterile. And as maybe her love interest comes into her life, we might see her pass the bed on occasion. Things might get more and more messed up in the bed. We might start to see that she actually has, colorful sheets. Maybe she has blue sheets that start to become exposed as she passes by that bed, and things get a little more disorderly. And then when we have our dark moment and it seems like hope is lost, she might go back to really making that bed, maybe making it even more with precision and care than she did initially. And then in the end, of course, she will go back to maybe being a little more free. Maybe she'll throw a couple of colorful pillows in there to mix it up and to show that she has finally overcome some of that controlling nature. So objects in the scene are a great way to reinforce those themes. And finally, don't worry. Yes, you're introducing some new elements in the second half of your story that may need to be in the beginning. Maybe not. Nicolas Cage and Gone in 60 Seconds, the whole storyline with Eleanor isn't introduced until the second half of the story and really drives that theme home. If you do need to bring it back, you can always put it in your story scribbles. But I've learned that when it comes to themes, it's really hard to come up with them at the beginning of your story because you don't actually know your characters very well yet. You don't know how the story is going to evolve. You definitely need your theme or need to have a good idea of what kind of story you're creating as you go into your climax and resolution, but it is hard to create it at the beginning. So if you need to go back and add bits and pieces later on, just jot those notes down in your story scribbles and we'll go back to them in round 2 when we start doing edits. Now we are prepared to go into turning point number 3, into our dark moment, our climax and resolution of the story. We are going into the final part of your novel. Very exciting.